Hello, hello. Hello, people. How are we? Assuming that this has actually started streaming, maybe? Let me know if you can see me in the comments. Because it does not seem to be showing up particularly well, mind. How is everyone? Is everyone excited for WWDC? Let me know if you are watching down in the comments section. We've got quite a big lag between. Hello.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, can you see my sleeping bag?
Oh, I'll do. I'll be up in a minute.
Okay.
Go on then. How is everyone? Do we actually have anyone here? Dagger. Hello. Thank you for being here. So we've got a couple of kids that are just about bedtime, so I may have to shoot off quickly. This is only going to be a shortish stream, going to be like half an hour, something like that. But yeah, let me know in the comments where you're watching from as well, and we'll have a little chat about WWDC. There's a bunch of stuff going on. We've got the headset. We've got apparently Apple have set up some tents, some sort of marquees for testing of this headset for the press and for presumably for developers too. They've got a lot of people going this year. We've got Macs coming. I'm still not sure if we're going to get M2 or M3. Everyone's saying M2 only, but I don't know. I think there's a chance that we could get M3. So we have Duggar in the chat looking at new hardware. I wonder what have you got your eye on? I don't think you're going to be buying the headset anytime soon. I think it's going to be a little while before that's available to buy, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But Macs, so we'll have the 15-inch MacBook Air, almost certainly. We will be having potentially a Mac Studio replacement. It looks like we're going to be getting an M2 version of that. Probably not getting the Mac Pro from the looks of things. And I don't think there's any other hardware that's sort of on the horizon at the moment. But yeah, I think that's probably the likelihood. If we get the M3s, which I don't think we will, but we could. If we do get those M3s, there is a decent chance, of course, that that's not going to be a 3nm chip. We've been talking about this in today's video, if you've not watched it already. We've now got 10 people watching, so say hi in the chat, please. Let me know where you're watching from, who you are, and what you're most excited for at WWDC. Obviously, we've got all the software coming as well, the normal WWDC stuff. So we've got iOS 17, we've got watchOS 10, I think, and then we've got tvOS updates. We've got the new macOS, which nobody knows what that's going to be called. There's been very little rumour around that. And I do think the vast majority of this is obviously going to be more around the headset and xros or whatever it might end up being called. We really don't know yet. David Lewis, hello pal, how are you? Yeah, there's so much going on. It's going to be a really interesting event. Apparently, it could be up to 3 hours long, which is ridiculous. That's a very, very long event. Hello, mate. You okay? Cool. I'll be right up. So yeah, 3 hour long event is epically long for Apple. I don't know the last time we've gone past a couple of hours. Little Mountain Life, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, and the fact that we've got 3 hours of event and they still couldn't fit in Final Cut Pro, Logic, the assistive voice stuff that is really, really interesting. I think that's going to be a game changer. I'm not quite sure when that's actually going to drop, if that's going to be with iOS 17 or if that's going to come out maybe in the summer before. That's going to be really interesting. Little Mountain Life, looking forward to the announcement of a thing I'll never buy. A lot of people said that about iPhones. I think even though the pricing is going to be very, very different from what we expect with iPhones, probably going to be looking at around about that $3,000 mark, which is very high, don't get me wrong. It's not something that I'm going to be running out to buy either, but I will try and get my hands on it. Someone has offered to send me a VR headset of some sort to be doing some stuff with, which is very exciting. And I've never used VR in any way, shape, or form. So that's going to be interesting. We've got Sigmund Judge in the chat as well. Apple TV expert extraordinaire, flying out tomorrow. Oh, so you're going to the event in person? That's very exciting. I am most jealous. Little Mountain Life is so just going to wait for the SE version. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the pricing is likely to come down. Bear in mind what we've had in the past, like when the MacBook Air originally came out, that was like a $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 device. Prices came down massively. It's obviously like the budget. I say budget in quote marks. It's the budget version of the Mac now, but I don't know if it was ever intended to be, but that's where we've ended up. So, you know, I'm sure there will be a cheaper version, or there will be more affordable options. Is it going to be the same? I don't know. Obviously, with Apple Watch, we'd certainly got the SE versions, which is still what I rock. I'm quite happy with my SE versions of stuff, I have to say. I think SE is underrated. I still think we need a MacBook SE. I think that would be a really good thing. But yeah. Little Mountain Life, now that it's over, did you ever get around to trying Ted Lasso? I watched about 4 episodes and I got really bored. I'll be honest. My issue with it was not anything major. It was just the fact that it's British humour written by Americans. And I would say I love Bill Lawrence's stuff in general. We're rewatching Scrubs start to finish right now. But he hasn't written good English dialogue. That's the thing. It all feels a bit awkward to me, and it was too uncomfortable for me to watch it and enjoy it, because basically the majority of the cast are obviously playing British characters, and I wish they'd kind of taken a little bit of input maybe from those actors who are British to just kind of smooth the edges out. But yeah, it wasn't for me. It's not something I've enjoyed particularly. I do love For All Mankind. That's one of the best TV shows I've ever watched. We loved The Morning Show. We loved Defending Jacob. We loved... what else have I watched on there? Schmigadoon's really good. Yeah, there's some great stuff on Apple TV+. Little Ted loves the dinosaur stuff, Prehistoric Planet with Attenborough. Like, there's incredible content on Apple TV+. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen as well in terms of Apple TV content that's kind of set up for the headset. Sigmund might actually have some sort of insight into this, but apparently where Apple have been out, especially filming gigs and sort of live shows, they have had VR crews there as well, which is interesting. So I think that might be part of what's going to be coming with the headset. NH thing, intrigued to see what is involved with xros. Yeah, I don't really know why they're calling it xros, and typically, obviously the iPhone had originally iPhone OS, and then it became iOS, and then we've got iPad OS and TV OS. Seems like they would make the name of the operating system a little bit closer, a little bit more literal to what the device is called. So I'm hoping that the headset's not going to be called the XR, because that doesn't make any sense. And we've already had the iPhone XR, which is, of course, the 10R. So is this, in fact, 10R OS? Like, it's so very confusing. Apple needs to decide if an X is an X or if it's a 10. That would make a lot of sense. But yes, Silo is starting off well. I haven't watched Silo. I watched a bit of Foundation when that first came out, but I think that was actually when I had COVID. So I sort of battened down the hatches in the office here and didn't go out into the main house. So I watched a bit of it then, but I wasn't quite with it either. But yeah, what else is people excited for at the event? Is it mainly for the headset? Is that the one that everyone's looking forward to? I have a feeling that my mic might be a little bit too loud here. I'm just going to adjust that slightly. Hopefully that makes things a little bit better. Black Greninja is here. Hi Dave, we're finally getting the 15-inch MacBook Air. Yes, I know you love big stuff. You do. Finally getting that 15-inch MacBook Air, it seems. That's the one that everyone has been talking about for a little while. I know there was talk as well of, I think I pointed out in today's video, anyone that thinks that you're going to get an M2 Pro chip in that is absolutely insane, because, apparently there's been issues with cooling just on M2 in fanless bodies, so why would we try and put an M2 Pro in there as well? That seems a little bit much. But yeah, I think it's going to be really good. Little Mountain Life audio is good, great. Yeah, it just looked like it was a little bit high on OBS on this side. But yeah, what's everyone else up to? Oh, Sigmund Judge is saying, think about the old Siri remote input methods with swiping gestures. More prehistoric planet, foundation, live music. How much we see of these is the question. Think you'll see quite a lot in terms of similarity between tvOS and xros. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I think the glass Siri remote I think I prefer to the aluminium one. I know a lot of people hated it, but as long as you could kind of put something else around it so you could work out which way up it goes, it was great. But it was actually more capable in terms of games and stuff as well, because obviously it had the accelerometers in there and you could use it as like a steering wheel and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. There's so much software-wise that's going to be coming. Black Ninja, we miss your daily videos, mate. Look, I am trying to get back to it. Obviously, I've got the full-time job. I was doing some writing for Supercharged News, which I've stepped back a little bit from the writing now. Still working on some projects with them, so I've not stepped away at all. But timing-wise, it was quite challenging. So that's what I've done there. I will try and get back to doing closer to daily stuff. I know I'm away for a conference again next week. I was at a conference last week. There's a lot of travel involved in my job and a lot of kind of running around, so it does make it tricky. And then also trying to sort out the kids and making sure that I get to the kids after school, because apparently leaving them when there's no one there to collect them is frowned upon in school circles. So yeah, I try to make sure I get there. But yeah. I would love to get back to doing the daily videos because, my channel's like dying at the minute because I've not been doing it as much. But that's why we've done the one today. There will probably be something out tomorrow. There will certainly be stuff out next week with WWDC. I'm also going to be at like Silverstone when the Grand Prix is on this year, like for 4 days with work, because we've got Jack Daniels sponsoring the McLaren team this year, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to be down there. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I will hopefully be testing some power unit stuff that you can take, which is also solar charging. British weather, so we'll see if solar charging is useful or not. But there we go. I will try my very best to get some more content out. Phil Han is saying, what is the best value MacBook to buy for designers? I'm guessing when you say designers, you mean designers. I would say you can use pretty much any MacBook that's Apple Silicon powered at this point. The M1 MacBook Air you can pick up for, I would say, I mean, I've not checked on Amazon recently, but I would guess like $850, something like that, for a brand new one. That's a really good value. The M2 MacBook Air is what I run this whole channel from. Even for doing video editing and all that sort of stuff, it's absolutely capable. All I would say is just make sure it's Apple Silicon. Don't even think about getting a used like Intel Mac at this point. There's very little point. There's nothing good about it. Mac Pro to be announced but not shipping. I don't think they're even going to announce it from the sounds of things. It sounds like they're waiting very much until they're into the M3 for that. That's not going to be at this event as far as we know. It looks like we are getting the Mac Studio at this event as opposed to being the Mac Pro, which is fine because it's got all the power that most people need. The only people that will sort of have more issues is the ones that need to be able to put in external additional cards, so audio inputs and outputs, additional storage, that kind of thing. Of course, all of this stuff can be run over Thunderbolt and put out the back of the Mac Studio, pretty much. But it's not as tidy. It's not as it's not as future-proof because you haven't got that sort of modularity in terms of I/O and stuff. Sigmund is saying, watch out for Apple's F1 Brad Pitt film starting production, starting in Silverstone, and then carrying on throughout the season with a dedicated team-specific filming purposes. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'm going to be super interested to watch that. I'm Tech saying, are we getting a second gen Mac Studio on Monday? Will there be anything different from the Gen 1? Besides M2 Ultra, I don't think there will be. The couple of things that might be different is if they've resolved the issues with the GPUs and being able to put ray tracing in. That would be really cool. Other than that, I can't imagine there's much that would need to be changed. it might be similar to the M2 MacBook Pros versus the M1s, where they get the updated version of HDMI. I think they got a faster SD card port, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, nothing dramatic, but nice little quality of life improvements. I don't think we're certainly not going to be seeing new displays or anything along those lines. But yes, I do think we will probably see that and probably have it shipping. It looks like there's shipping delays at the moment on the M1 Mac Studios, so it makes a lot of sense. We've got James Apple here. What's going on, Dave? We're doing a bit of a live stream. Cool. Evan Rogers is here. Howdy, folks. When will the M2 iPad Air drop? I don't know. Do we need it? Do we need it at the minute? I don't think it's a priority. However, yeah, I mean, always upgrade stuff. But the M1 iPad Air can run Final Cut, it can run Logic, it can do basically everything that the Mac Pros can do. It just doesn't have the quicker display, so it probably doesn't actually need to have an M2, because the M2 is probably using quite a bit of its bandwidth to do the higher refresh rates and doing all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's probably not a huge issue for it, but yeah, it could come. I wouldn't have thought it'll be at the event. It might be in September, October time. The usual kind of update cycle. We should probably get a Mac Mini update as well, because that's been quite a while. NH late 2022, there were rumours of a Pro Display XDR update. Those rumours seem to have died. Yeah, it's not that the rumours have died, but it looks like Apple's put that on hold. That's according to Ross Displayman Young, who has basically said they were working on some stuff and they've put it on hold. I think there were issues with the panels. I/O is difficult if you want to do like 120 hertz at 5K. That's a lot of bandwidth to get through. It's possible, but it's not simple. Yeah, it's not a trivial thing. And also, there seems to have been quite a few issues in terms of the A13 chip, I think, that's in the studio display right now, which kind of, I feel like maybe they want to resolve this and make sure that everything's working properly and they're not bricking displays with updates before they put the next one out and then have to do more returns. Seems to make sense to me, at least. Marco, I'm not even going to try and pronounce your surname. Marku, I'm going to say. Will Apple VR headset be able to play Steam games? I would say probably not. At least not initially, although with Europe's changes to what they're doing in terms of app stores and openness and stuff, I think they're probably going to keep it locked down initially for the first year or so. Next year they might have to open it up, but obviously it's a new category pretty much that Europe probably hasn't really thought through in terms of what they're doing with those laws at this point. So I don't think it will be straight away. I think it's going to be a lot more along the lines of an iPhone in terms of App Store than it is the Mac in terms of app loading, because they'll want to protect it and make sure that it actually works properly before they open it up. That's my thoughts. But also maybe Apple's going to bring people out from Steam onto the stage and be like, yeah, we've done a deal with these guys. Wouldn't expect to see Epic on stage, though, if I'm honest. Even though they used to come out and do all the Infinity Blade stuff, I don't think Tim Sweeney and Tim Cook are still besties, given their history. Although Epic did just release Unreal Engine, like the back end stuff with Apple Silicon support now, which is interesting. So that might be something that's working towards the headset as well. Who knows? James Apple has asked, will you ever get into Final Cut on the iPad Air? I would do, but I don't have an iPad Air that has an M1 chip in it. I've got the A14 version. That's my one over here, which I had from the release date, and for everything that I need, it already does it. I'm not opposed to editing on the iPad. I've done it before when I've been out and about, but bear in mind this is also a 64 gig iPad Air, so that's going to fill up very, very quickly once you start putting video clips onto it. It already was when I was trying to use LumaFusion, because that also has a huge library. One of the great things, which I'm guessing you can't do with Final Cut on the iPad, but you can do on the desktop, is you can basically tell Final Cut to leave all the clips where they are and just link to them in place, as opposed to adding them to a library. So you can basically keep your library down to a few hundred megabytes, as opposed to being gigs and gigs and gigs, which is what a lot of people struggle with when they're having to, edit on a small hard drive or a small SSD. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very exciting event. It's gonna go on and on and on. There's going to be so much stuff happening. I will try and get some video out. I'm not working the following day so that I can work through the night a little bit and still survive. And then the day after that is when I've got to drive down to another conference. So it's all going to be quite busy. We've got more people joining the stream. Do say hello in the chat. We're just nattering here, talking to Apple, shooting it, and just yeah, it's just a relaxed thing. We don't have any big topics to talk about. There's a lot of stuff going on. We put out a full video today that sort of discussed the vast majority of stuff. But yeah, and I keep saying we. It's only me. It's only ever me. But it is looking like a pretty busy event. If they've had to put all that other stuff out before we actually get to WWDC, and WWDC is going to be 3 hours long just for the keynote, that's astonishingly long. Last year it was sub 2 hours, I think, because I think they wanted to put more hardware out, perhaps. But yeah, it's going to be a hell of an event. I am very excited for it. Berserk is from Ontario, Canada, hoping beyond hope for a new iMac. But no, it won't happen. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get the. I don't think we're gonna get an iMac until we get M3. That's what has been said, at least by Mr. Gurman. So we'll see what happens with that. That makes sense. I think we could well see iMacs in the fall, which would be good. It does need an update. My dad bought that as soon as it came out, and he's really happy with it still. Although he was having some keychain problems today, but that's all sorted now. Curious to see how the Prosser event will go the day after, says Little Mountain Life. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun event. I'm hoping that they're going to put video out afterwards. I know they're not live streaming it, but yeah, I'm sure it will be absolute chaos with all the other creators that are going to be in California as well, in Cupertino area. I think they're doing this in San Francisco, Regency Ballroom, something like that. All the tickets are sold out. But I would not be surprised if you got the likes of Sarah Dici popping on stage, maybe Jonathan Morrison, maybe, Quinn Snazzy, maybe even like Rennie Ritchie, some of those guys. I wouldn't be surprised if a good number of those guys are turning up. Some sort of cameo, whether they're in the audience and join in or not, I don't know. But obviously Luke Miani as well. It's gonna be a pretty cool event, I think. NH is saying, what California landmark do we guess will be the macOS name? I've seen Rancho Cucamonga, is it, as one suggestion. We did put out a question in the show today, so let me see what responses we've got. I think Sequoia was mentioned by someone. That would be quite good. macOS Sequoia, that sounds quite good. Let's see what else we had. So, just while this pulls up, let's see. We've had Redwood or Sequoia as one option. We've had... Oh yeah, there's people commenting about shots fired towards Max Tech. Yeah, you don't need to use your MacBook Air to transcode 8-code raw video. macOS Skyline, says James. Is that an area of California? I don't know. We could be moving away from California names. We've had that for a decade now, I think, which is crazy talk. So maybe we're moving away from those. Let's see. Duggar is saying, I'm convinced Mac Pro will be announced but not ship anytime soon, hence no leaks. To be fair, the no leaks is also partially, I would guess, the fact that it's basically the original case, so it wouldn't look any different. We've seen these compute units leak, and my thought on that has been right from the start that is basically SoCs on a board that you chuck in over something along the lines of a PCIe, whether it's PCIe or not. but yeah, I mean, if they're going to announce it, then it's going to be probably December before it ships as well. My only thought is maybe they wanted to announce it or the Mac Studio so that you can use it as a development platform for the VR stuff. That would make sense to me. Iron Tech says 1/3 Mac, 1/3 VR, 1/3 everything else. I mean, yeah, I think they're gonna push through the regular iOS updates quite quickly because obviously there's not a huge number of new features coming, but we'll see. Yeah, it could well be split pretty much that way. Will the Mac Pro doesn't have xstream chip, so why is the delay for it? This is from James. I don't think there was ever an extreme chip. I think it was basically going to be just like we had with the Ultra, but you're going to slap a pair of Ultras together, and that was what the extreme would have been. But it does make more sense for me that they would just do these compute units, then they don't have to make huge dies and hope for no major errors in them. It makes more sense. I'm Tech saying Mammoth was a common name idea. I think Mammoth was around for last year. It was trademarked at the same time. There is a decent chance, but nobody seems to be mentioning it at the moment. Skyline is a landmark in California. Cool. macOS Mammoth for when the Macs get touchscreen. Why? Why does Mammoth apply to touchscreens? I'm not sure on that. But I also am not sure that Macs will get touchscreens. I don't think there's any reason that they should. Although I have gone to poke my MacBook Air a few times because I'm used to watching content on my iPad, and then when I'm watching it on my laptop, I sometimes go to click skip and stuff like that. But it's one of those. Skyline is Highway 35, goes from San Francisco down the Santa Cruz Mountains. It's real nice. Oh, that's cool. Thank you very much, NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC. Good to know where that is. Iron Man, any chance of Thunderbolt 5 at the event? It's supposed to come out this year based on the newest USB standard. I can't imagine that it would be something that gets announced by Apple because it is an Intel technology, although it was kind of co-produced by Apple in the first place. It's very much kind of owned by Intel, so I don't think that's likely to come at an Apple event. Although it was the MacBook, the 12-inch one that was the first to get USB-C, I think, pretty much one of the first devices to come with it. But yeah, I don't see that we're going to get that on it. But we could. I think that the headset is the really interesting thing. Apparently, people have been working out the bill of parts for it. It comes to about $1,600 in terms of like the actual component costs. Which makes the $3,000 price point seem about right, because you couldn't really sell it for under 2.5, really, with taxes and all of the other stuff. And it's always good to have a bit of retail margin in there as well, because obviously there is people kind of forget that Apple's not the only people that sell these things, so they need to actually have some margin in there for resellers and that sort of stuff. Thunderbolt 5 spec is already announced, just nothing to market yet. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be something that Apple pushes to do first, unless it is for stuff like the Studio. Maybe the Studio could use it, and they could announce other Studio type accessories that it sits on top of, like those Satechi docks that you use for Mac Minis and stuff like that. That's the same kind of footprint. That's a possibility. James Apple is saying because it'll be a Mammoth update and the name would warrant it for being a touchscreen. It'll be funny as hell as well when Craig makes a joke about it. I mean, yeah, I just don't see the point of touchscreen on a Mac. I could see Apple Pencil. I've always said that I would like an iMac that folds down into like a drawing board type thing, which you could use the Apple Pencil with. That would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I can't see touchscreen working. Certainly not on desktop Macs. And then if you're going to have it on some Macs and not other Macs, then it means that your interface is going to be non-optimal for some people. And you're not going to have a touchscreen mode on stuff, because that's what iPads are. We've got touch-capable stuff. I don't think we need it on the Mac. Sorry. Can't innovate my mammoth trunk. Very good, very good. I think I kind of miss Phil Schiller doing these events. I've heard as well that potentially some of this event is going to be like live on stage, where you're going to have TC actually announcing some stuff on stage as opposed to being pre-recorded. So maybe a bit of a hybrid type event. That would be interesting. Apple Pencil on MacBooks, and I'm here for it, says James Apple. Yeah, I think so too. Michael Moy, Costco had a Mac Studio for 1,500 and an Ultra for 3,200. Really clearing them out of those prices. Yeah, and as I say, they are delayed if you want to ship them from Apple right now. So it's it's looking very much like there's either going to be a Studio or something else that kind of fills that gap. But in terms of the code names, I think A375 is the current Studio and A475 is the one that's in testing. So it makes kind of sense that might well just be the next generation on the Studio. Although they don't always go in that kind of order, so who knows. Right, guys, I'm going to probably wrap this one up in about 10 minutes because the kids are just in bed. My wife's going to be back very soon. And yeah, I think we'll wrap it up in a few. But yeah, get these last questions in. Let's do this now. Marcus says, what kind of control system will the Apple VR headset have? So by all accounts, it is going to be entirely hands. It's not going to be using controllers. It's not going to have any sort of accessory to it. It's pretty much just going to be your hands in space. A bit of Siri, more than likely as well, but there will be stuff like that. Yeah, that's what we're hearing. NH is saying thoughts on the rumours of external battery packs. Some media seem to have made quite a fuss about it. I don't think it's a problem. Probably ideal. Yeah, the reason for the external battery pack is that it's making the whole thing a damn sight lighter than it would be if it was just on your face. So all of the battery that you're going to have, the battery pack is apparently about the size of two iPhone 14 Pro Maxes slapped together, something along those lines. So that's going to be a hefty thing. Apple is obviously very conscious of the weight of the whole device and apparently is using carbon fibre for part of the frame, which they've never used before in an Apple product. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think that's why they've moved it away. Because if you're moving your head around, you want your head to be unencumbered, and not just weight in terms of comfort would be added if you kept the batteries in it, but also like inertia for moving your head quickly if you need to move your head to look at stuff. So I think that's probably why, and I think it's absolutely fine. It would be great if it was integrated and still very light, but that's not how technology works, unfortunately. There's always going to be trade-offs of some sort. Michael Moy is saying, watching from the beginning, don't plan on buying any hardware given what I'm expecting. I think that 15-inch MacBook Air is probably one of the more interesting parts in terms of the hardware that will actually come out. James Apple, no, keep the pre-recorded events. We don't need flawed moments on stage. It does make it more exciting though, James. I think last year's WWDC was live too. No, it wasn't. They had people there, but they were just watching the pre-recorded video on screens. A couple of the guys came out right at the beginning to welcome people, but yeah, the event itself and what was streamed to everyone was pre-recorded. Berserk says, what are your thoughts on more AAA games coming to the Mac, like No Man's Sky and crossover using DirectX 12? So No Man's Sky has obviously come over as native, and that's using the Metal frameworks, which is really, really good. This is the kind of thing that we actually need. Crossover is basically, as far as I understand, it's kind of like Wine. So you used to be able to use it on the old Mac OS on Intel models, and it basically just translated the Windows code, which is why you've got the DirectX 12 stuff. It's not going to be mainstream enough for people to use in general. What needs to happen is, as the Mac user base expands, which is certainly happening at the moment with Apple Silicon, that's just going to attract more developers to actually develop games for the Mac. However, because they don't have discrete graphics cards, so graphics-wise, they're not as powerful as like tower PCs and high-end gaming laptops. They're not going to be developing those higher-end games natively for the Mac, because there's very little of the hardware that can actually deal with it. So I'm saying there's supposed to be a battery and then battery add-on modules is what I heard. As far as I'm aware, there isn't a battery that's built into the headset. It's purely those external battery packs. I don't think there's going to be any battery on board. I mean, there might be like a very small one so that you can swap battery packs without having to turn the whole thing off. But yeah, as far as I understand it, it's purely external batteries to run it. Michael Moyes saying, I don't think I can use VR as I require eyeglasses, correction at various focal points. I've got a feeling that Apple is looking to basically do those lenses as a prescription within the headset. So you'll be able to order a headset that has your prescription to it. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. James Apple says, I have the untitled folder wallet. Okay. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, James. Rob Mattinson, hello. I'm expecting the 13-inch M2 MacBook Pro to be replaced by the 15-inch MacBook Air, either M2 or M3. With the 15-inch, with the lesser chips, the 14 and 16-inch with the higher chips, that makes more sense than the 13 Pro. That makes absolute sense. Apparently, it's not what's happening. By all accounts, I think Gurman has said that they are updating the 13-inch Pro as well, which it makes no sense to me. I don't know why it's been in the range at all. And certainly once you've got the larger 15-inch MacBook Air, you're also going to have longer battery life because it's going to have more battery inside it. So there's really no need for it to exist anymore. Michael Moyes saying 2022 App Store revenue $1.1 trillion. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. More than the GDP of many countries. Yep. Absolutely is. What are the chances that the VR headset will be priced for as mere mortals? Probably slim to none. I don't know if we're even going to get the pricing at WWDC. I'm going to be honest with you. I think what we're going to see is it's going to be a lot like when they announced Apple Silicon. So we're going to find out what it's about, why they're doing it, and we might see some either development hardware or so like a DTK kit. But I'm not 100% sure that we'll see what the final thing is going to look at, what it's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be I think I said in the video it's more like seeing a concept car. So although it kind of resembles what you're going to get at the end, it's also going to be slightly different. That's my thoughts. In terms of pricing, I think at this point it's going to be high, but I think over time it will come down, or they'll do versions which are more affordable. In the sort of starts with a 1 kind of category. Right, what else have we got? James is saying, going to see those devs. I'm going to see those devs demos for AR VR headset. Okay. I think the tech for VR is just very expensive. Yeah, it's because, we're looking at 4 micron pixels on these 4K displays that are going on each eye. And they're also going to have 5,000 nits of brightness, which is, I looked it up, 10,000 nits is like a fully brightest day you've experienced outside. Clear skies, sun up in the sky. That's 10,000 nits. You're going to have 5,000 like inches from your eyes, like maybe an inch from your eyes. That's crazy. That's crazy bright. Didn't mean the battery in the headset, but the one mounted to the waistband and then batteries in addition. Possibly, but I think it'll be more of a case of you just switch out those packs, so you can buy multiple packs, and then you can just click them on, click them off. It'll be sort of MagSafey because it's magnetic, but then it locks into place because obviously people are going to be moving around. Have I watched Severance? No, not yet, but I really want to, just haven't got round to it time-wise. iManTech Touch Bar for the last few Touch Bar fans can get it in the 13-inch Pro. Apple doesn't keep stuff around because there's a handful of fans. So if they didn't need that to be in the lineup for some particular reason, I guess it's probably got the highest margins on it because it is an old design. It's got a nice thick enclosure compared to the others, so they don't have to like squeeze battery in. It's got decent cooling, blah blah blah. It's a fine machine, but also there's a lot of people that just want Pro written on their computer, even if it's basically the same as the Air. It's just one of those things. Severance is possibly one of the best shows on TV Plus. Yeah, I've heard. I haven't had time. I'll get there. James is saying because it's for the fake people who identify as pros but don't drop 2K on a 14-inch Pro. Yeah, exactly. 5K nits of brightness is bonkers. Yes, it is. That's exactly my thoughts. Micro OLED with 2,000 pixels per inch or something crazy. Yeah, but obviously remember, like for Retina, it's based on how far away you are from stuff. So like a MacBook could be like 280 pixels per inch. Your iPhone is like up to 430 or something like that now because you hold it nearer to your face. It's basically you need to not be able to see the pixels, and I think it has to be very, very tight because they're going to be so close to your eyes, and they're then going to go through lenses, and you don't want to get the aberrations that you get from lenses when you're going through it. If you ever look through a lens at a TV, you see all the sub-pixels and stuff. It looks awful. James Apple, Dave, Ted Lasso. Yeah, we've already discussed this. I watched about 4 episodes of it, and I got really bored and frustrated because I thought the English dialogue for the English characters was too clunky. It didn't feel like real people. I think you could get away with it if you had an English writer writing one American character like Ted. But I think when you go the other way around and you've got basically a whole group of people talking to each other in a very unnatural way, it took me right out of it. Little Mountain Life, the only way I'd buy the headset is if our Airbnb was already open. Seen several B&B listings feature VR sets for in-house entertainment. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, I mean, I need to try some VR. I've never used it at all in any way, shape, or form, so that's definitely on my list to do pretty soon. Right, we are going to wrap this one up, guys, mainly because I just need to get the house straight and make sure the kids are okay. But thank you all for being here. I am going to try and get some more videos out. There's a few bits and bobs that I need to do for people that have sent me stuff. So a few little review videos coming. But I don't want to sort of overcrowd the channel with that without doing the actual news. And obviously we've got a lot of news coming this weekend. We might get some last minute leaks over the weekend. And I'm here on standby for it. Dave, you all sound Cockney like Jamie Tartt to us Americans. Well, yeah, I'm not very Cockney, am I? I'm basically the opposite of that. But there we go. I sound more like I'm from the BBC than Cockney. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just it was Ted Lasso was just a little bit weird for me. But yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, there are more videos coming. Do let me know in the actual comment section if you've got any IK Answers questions, and we will get through those in one of the next videos, probably before the end of the weekend. So any WWDC questions that you've got, chuck them down there and we'll put them in a proper video. Alright, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next one.